Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I'm Katie Wrigley, neuroscience coach and entrepreneur. This podcast is for high-performing leaders who look capable on the outside, but know the pressure of carrying too much alone. Each week, we explore the internal and external systems that create real ease, from nervous system regulation to delegation and smarter support. If you're ready to build in a way that feels steady and sustainable, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Catapult Effect podcast. I am your host, Katie Wrigley. I have a special episode for you today, and this one I am going solo. I'm going to share a client story with this client's permission, and I am changing her name as well. It is really important to me that I share that with you because the trust that I create within my client sessions means everything to me. So this is shared with full permission and under a pseudonym. So we are going to call my client Sharon, and I want to talk about some of the things that we worked on that have led to her doubling her business in the last 2 months alone. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I also want to touch on in the next part of this episode, what is actually going on in the mind and how it skews our view of the world when we have endured and survived childhood trauma. Any trauma, really. But when it impacts us before the age of 7, it has a deeper impact on us later in life. So Sharon and I have actually been working together since last summer. She initially came in and did what is called my transformational month, 4 different sessions. And then we've continued to work just once a month since then to continue to keep that nervous system refined. Even though most clients get well on their way to their goals, and in fact, one of the things that Sharon had said to me is she didn't even feel like the person who filled out the form initially. So one of the first things that my clients do when they've decided that they want to work with me, I ask them to fill out a form. And it's not because I want to get all up in your shit in a bad, weird way. It's because we really want to measure where you are right now, because we want to see how far we go in that transformational month together. We want to see, did we move the needle? And if so, how much? So for someone to go in just 4 sessions to not even recognize the person that had filled out the form, it's absolutely incredible. And that is totally what is possible when your nervous system has no desire to hang on to any of the blocks that it has had. Actually, there are no blocks anymore, I should say. The nervous system doesn't want to hang on to any patterns that are unresourceful or wasting energy. And Sharon had done a good deal of therapy before she came into me. She had worked with coaches, and something was just telling her that this was the next level of work. And one of the other things that she had shared early on was that we got further in these 4 sessions with her than she had gotten in 2 years of talk therapy. So these have been incredible results. But the incredible thing is, Sharon is not alone in what she experienced. And I'm really excited to dive into some of the things that we talked about, because a lot of times we aren't going to make that direct correlation between the things that may be holding us back in business and the things that we're dealing with from traumas, from negative events, from life experiences that have had a negative impact on me, whether it counts as a trauma or not. We don't necessarily make those correlations, or we think, oh, this thing that's going on here with my husband, it's not actually impacting my business, except that you're one person with one mind, one nervous system. So how could it not be impacting your life in ways that you probably aren't aware of? And it's not your fault that you aren't aware of it. 95%, let's remember the way the mind works, 95% of what you are experiencing is going from the subconscious mind. It's not on a conscious level. Only 5% of what we're doing in a day is on a conscious level. And it is crazy when you think about how much your mind can race. It is nuts to think how much is going on beneath the surface. But that's where those patterns are laying. And so when we have access to them, which is exactly what we do in the work that I do, amazing things happen, like with what Sharon had experienced. So I want to really look at the last 2 months. And again, we only did 2 sessions, 1 a month, because that is what she had said when I said, hey, you said you had exponential growth in your business since working with me. Can you define that for me? And she said, my business has literally doubled in the last 2 months. Those big sessions that we did, those have been incredible. So the first one that we did, we actually focused around disappointment. And I'm looking at my notes that I take in my client sessions so that I can go directly into what this is. And so there had been something that Sharon had been working on. And for whatever reason, the opportunity just wound up not coming in. And it had seemed like it was going to be a sure thing. And what this did is it set off this feeling of disappointment, and it set off a little bit of uneasiness around the current economic landscape. Now, this is one that I hear a lot of different lenses on this. Some lenses are like, people are still buying things, and absolutely that's true. Other people are really feeling that pinch. But the disappointment is the thing that came up. And the disappointment felt really familiar. It felt like something that she had felt in childhood. And she realized that she hadn't been allowing herself to feel that disappointment. And so that is exactly what we did, is we focused on that feeling of disappointment. And even as we started to get into the session, she started to feel a new wave of optimism that she was going to have someone coming in to help support her business that she was really excited about. But we were still able to access and go into the disappointment. And it's really, really cool. Some of the things that can come up as we're going into it. Like one of the things that she said is she felt like an observer. Like maybe it wasn't even fully her, like almost like there were two sides, disappointing herself and disappointing others. And she knew, kudos to her, that had a link to fear and trauma. So we started working through this. And then at the end of it, the disappointment went away. So that was the first thing that we worked on. And it was really, really cool the way that it kept shifting and changing. And we really got into the body in that session. And we talked to the body to help understand, this thing in disappointment, this was a big theme that she had had a lot early in her life. People being disappointed in her being disappointed in other people. This had been something that she was really familiar with. And so we did what I call chakra talk. So you may or may not know that the body has a chakra system in it, starting at root, basically the crotch level, and going up to the top of your head. There are 7 chakras according to most different energy work, like Reiki uses 7 chakras. Pranic healing, however, work uses 9 chakras. They actually identify a couple chakras on the back of the body as well. But at any rate, for our intents and purposes of this conversation, chakra talk is a 7 chakras. So root is down in the crotch. Basically, it's all about protection. I'm just going to really lay term it, super simplified. They do much more than what I'm talking about here. Again, this is just for example's sake. So the root is all about protecting you. The sacral, which is at the belly button, root is expressed by the color red. Orange is the belly button sacral. This is our creativity center, also our pleasure center, as well as where we hold betrayal. Solar plexus is next. It is in the area of the solar plexus, surprise, which is denoted by the color yellow. And it's all about sense of self and protecting self. Green is the heart chakra, all about love, giving and receiving. Blue is the throat chakra, all about expressing ourselves, our voice, or more indigo, I think. No, blue is the throat. Indigo is the third eye, right in the forehead, your intuition. And then crown chakra is purple, and that is on the top of your head. That is your connection to source. So the way to understand it, we have information coming through the chakra system that gets distributed to each one of the chakras, stays in the subconscious mind until there is something important about it. And then the body brings it into the conscious mind. We know that this is happening because suddenly we'll get a random thought of like, why is that argument from 3rd grade suddenly coming up again? Why do I care about that? Well, there is something that is going on in your life that the subconscious is like, hey, there's kind of some important information that happened in this argument in 3rd grade. I'm bringing it up because it's important for you to know. So we can see these kind of correlations. And when we understand that it's not just random thoughts, that your mind, your body is trying to bring something to your attention that's important, it becomes a little bit of a different game. And so these are this is one of my favorite techniques to do in a Cognomovement session is the chakra talk, because it can be really funny. Like even people who had never heard of the chakra system will give different expressions like, is it weird that they all have something different to say? Why is one really talkative and the rest of them are really quiet? Like it's been really fun, and it's so cool to see what kind of information comes up. And so we worked through all of the different things. If things failed, according to the root chakra, it would mean that there was catastrophe linked back to early childhood again, needing to walk on eggshells. Sacral chakra, disappointment, again, coming up. And then each one of the chakras had more and more. The heart was actually trying to say that it was okay with disappointment. It was okay to feel shame about disappointment. All of this was okay. Basically, the heart was validating everything that she was feeling. And then the throat, realizing this disappointment, this had been part of her story. So again, all of the body's telling all of these pieces there. And as we got up to the third eye, it got really, really cool. The third eye, the first thing it said is, girl, just wait of that. And then it was going into wisdom and encouragement and moving forward, like help go through this disappointment, and started to really shift to, hey, if this opportunity didn't come through, what could possibly come through instead? Sometimes we get so attached to a certain outcome that we don't realize when we lose it that maybe we lost it because there's something even better for us coming in. And that is exactly what happened with Sharon. So we continued to work through that, checked in on her again. She was doing really well. A month later, we did another session, and things had been really, really blowing up for her since that session. So again, we worked through the feeling of disappointment in her body. And what that started to transition to in her business was that things started to blow up and really go smoothly and really well for her. So this is only 1 month into this 2 months where her business has doubled. Everything blew up. So then the next thing, and I want to just commend Sharon in the event that she's listening, for her strength and her bravery to go into this. She went into something that was incredibly painful for her. And it even had resistance talking to me about it. And this was about the idea, this lifelong pattern, that her body wasn't good enough. And she even remembered feeling at age 4, that there was something wrong with her body. And it was so painful for her. It was like a crown of thorns wrapped around her throat. That's how she described it. Really somatic in Cognomovement. You really want to notice how the body is activated, what it feels like, what the experience of disappointment is, or the experience of my body isn't good enough. And all of these things that had happened in her life, there was an assault. There were other pieces that had come up. She had struggled with an eating disorder at one point in time, which a lot of people have struggled with as well. And it continued to reinforce that the body wasn't enough. And again, when we get into the second part of this episode, I'm going to explain a little bit more about the trauma lens and how it skews things, because this is what Sharon was experiencing directly. So Sharon was actually thinking like all of these things couldn't happen unless there was something wrong with her body. And so we just went right into it. And I allowed her body to have whatever was wrong with it. There must be something wrong with my body, and just allowed her to have it. We moved through it over and over and over again. And then 75 minutes later, after we worked through all this, I said, and I could tell, because part of my training is to be able to read the nervous system. So I could see the changes. We had started with tears. It was extremely painful, extremely hard for her to go into it. The tears had stopped. I saw a smile a couple times. Her shoulders had relaxed. Her face looked peaceful. Her jaw wasn't clenched. There was no more emotion anymore. And I said, what is the truth about your body? And she just grinned at me and she said, she's badass. And it was so beautiful. And then we continued to reiterate the positive, because we can actually erase the negative and we can bring in more of the positive as well. So we brought in the positive and we continued to reinforce it. And that was that her body is strong, resilient, healthy, capable, fierce, powerful, fit, fast, fun, fabulous. Checking in on her again. She got a lot of sleep a couple nights later, and that can happen when the nervous system has something big to process. And she felt a lot of freedom in there and a lot of expansion. And one of the comments she had said to me is that clients have been falling in my lap left and right since we did this. This is amazing. And like I said, when I went back and asked like, hey, what does exponential growth mean? She said her business has literally doubled in the last 2 months. That is 100% growth to those of you who are keeping track. So that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for hearing Sharon's story. And I hope you're going to join me for part 2 when I help you understand and walk you through exactly how trauma is impacting you in your life and what it does to your belief system. Until then, please be well. Welcome back to the Catapult Effect podcast. I am your host, Katie Wrigley. Continuing along, if you listened to part 1 of this episode, you heard Sharon's story and how working a pattern of disappointment and working an old pattern that there was something wrong with her body had literally doubled her business in the time that we worked those sessions. So how is that possible? How is working on something that was disappointing and working on your body, how is that going to translate into the business? I want to be able to go into this for you so you can help start to see how this may be impacting your life. If you know that you've experienced a trauma or some sort of negative event, this episode is for you. When we have experienced a trauma, and just for clarity, a trauma is any kind of negative event either physically, mentally, emotionally, maybe all of the above, that hurts us, that we cannot escape from. As an example, COVID-19, that was an example of a trauma. Others can be physical violation, sexual abuse, physical abuse. Those are big T traumas that we tend to talk about. Now, the other important thing to note is that any time when you're younger and your needs were not met, the nervous system may track that as a trauma. And we've seen this over and over again in the Cognomovement world. Liz Larson, the co-creator of Cognomovement, one of her favorite stories to talk about is someone who had this lifelong pattern of, I'm not good enough, that stemmed from a day where her sister got a popsicle and she didn't. Now, her mind hadn't tracked that she actually got a popsicle later in the day. And the reason she didn't get one at the same time her sister did is because her sister had finished her sandwich and she hadn't. But what happened was the nervous system said, she got a popsicle, I didn't, therefore I'm not good enough. And then that pattern ran. So what exactly is going on? So her nervous system had marked that thing as a traumatic event, and that created a toxic belief system. And that belief system is that I'm not good enough. The normal emotional response to thinking that we're not good enough or that there's something wrong with me. There is something wrong with me. So therefore, I'm not good enough. That toxic belief system creates a normal emotional response to this of thinking that there is something wrong with you. That emotional response can be shame, guilt, anger, fear, grief, all of the above, something negative. Now we have that lens going. And now we have that nervous system pattern running that has shame or guilt or grief or fear or all of the above. And what it's going to do is it's going to skew the way that life looks. So it's going to tell us that life is going to hand you mistreatment, judgment, bullying, assault, physical, sexual, emotional, feeling unseen, unheard, losing a job, losing a partner, betrayal, isolation, lose yourself. Basically, you stop being yourself because you have to put up a facade. So all of these things that come up in your life, those are more proof of that toxic belief system, which is then going to feed into the shame, guilt, grief, anger, whatever it may be. The life experience through that trauma lens looks like everybody else has it figured out except me. I'm not good enough. If I stop, I'm going to die. That could only happen if there was something wrong with me. People are out to hurt me. Love is dangerous / painful, not worth it. Can't sleep. This is where addiction comes in because they're trying to numb all these painful experiences. No one cares. I'm not seen or heard. And if I succeed, I'm going to get punished. That is what the experience of life is when we have this nervous system pattern running off of this toxic belief system. Now, when we go into Cognomovement, this is what we're doing. Cognomovement, again, mind-body system that speaks directly to the nervous system. So what we do is we're going to neutralize the impact of that traumatic event. The emotions that are in there, the shame, the guilt, the grief, the anger, whatever may be in there, disappointment, my body isn't good enough. If there's physical discomfort that goes with it, anxiety, depression, if the actual event is available, and this is a very important place to point out, and I talk about this in my upcoming book as well, the brain is never going to reveal something to you that you cannot handle. So if the actual event is available, I'm going to use one of my techniques to walk through the event to be able to break apart the impact of the event. Like this is just the way that Cognomovement works. We can really dissolve a lot of the pieces that come out of this trauma and we can neutralize it. When we've neutralized the impact of the trauma, now we have a space for the healthy belief system to come in. That healthy belief system is that there's nothing wrong with me and there was never anything wrong with me. And then that goes into a normal emotional response to the fact that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're confident, you're happy, you have an ability to enjoy life. Now we have a positive, resourceful nervous system loop running. So now it feels like life is for you. You have wonderful connections. It's full of possibility. There's limitless potential within me and every other person out here. You're able to manifest the things that you want faster, easier, more often. You start to experience miracles on a daily basis. Peace and ease are part of your regular day-to-day life. You have the ability to sleep. You return to who you are. You start to be comfortable to be that person. And your life experience makes you realize that instead of thinking that everybody has it figured out except for you, you're going to realize that no one has it figured out, but all of us are doing our best. And I'm not good enough. That shifts into I'm enough. I'm more than that. If I stop, I will die. That goes into I can rest and relax. And in fact, when I rest and relax,
I'm going to have more energy, more creativity, more to give into the things that really matter to me, into the people who really matter to me. The idea that that event could only happen to you if there was something wrong with you, that now turns into that event said nothing about me. The idea that people are out to hurt you, now you realize that some people are really fucking amazing. The belief that you're safer / better off alone, you actually realize now that you're safer / better off when you're with your people. It doesn't mean all people, but your tribe, you know you're part of that community and you're better off when you're connected to them. Instead of love being dangerous and painful, now love is worth the risk because we can't be vulnerable without giving ourselves a little bit of risk there, right? We can be hurt if we love, but what are we missing out on when we don't open ourselves up to it? The I can't sleep goes to I can sleep well. Addictions turn into not needing to be able to numb out anymore. You don't have to numb out. The idea that no one cares turns into the right people care, and so do I. The belief that you're not seen or heard, you're seen or heard by the right people, and you know that. And the idea that you're going to get punished for your success, now you see that the more success you have, the more freedom you're going to have. So this is what is happening underneath the surface. So Sharon shifting out of that toxic belief system that there was something wrong with her body and all the ways that it was impacting her, and that disappointment that was linked back to traumatic events earlier in her childhood, those things were contributing to feeling that economic pinch. And hey, guess what? Despite all the fear we're hearing about the economy, Sharon's business has doubled in the last 2 months. This is what becomes possible when we shift out of these old belief systems and we shift into the new ones. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would really love to continue this conversation with you. Reach out to me at katie@katiewrigley.live. Let me try that again. Reach out to me at katie@katiewrigley.com and put in the subject, heard your podcast, and let's talk. I want to talk about what you've noticed is working against you in your life and see, is this something I think I can help with? It's not a pressure phone call. We're just going to chit chat. I want to know more about you. We're going to talk about different ways that you may be able to help free yourself from whatever is going on beneath the surface. And I would love to be a part of your journey and to help you scale your business and to make your life easier. Thank you again for joining me today. I really, really appreciate you being here with me. And I trust that these episodes are helpful for you and that Sharon's story is one that resonated with you as well. And thank you very much to Sharon for her permission to share the story on here. Until next time, please be well.
Thanks for being here on the Catapult Effect podcast. If today's episode supported you, share it with another leader who's ready to create more ease in how they build, and leave a review so more heart-led leaders can find these conversations. You don't have to do everything yourself. When the right systems are in place, inside and out, business gets lighter. Until next time, protect your capacity.